All right, let's take a second and talk about Terminator Dark Fate because it did pretty badly this weekend. Just did a video about this yesterday. We're going to talk about it again because I love seeing this movie do bad. I love it because this movie ruined, in my opinion, Terminator 2 and Terminator 1, but more so Terminator 2, I think is probably one of the best action movies ever made. It's in my top 5 as far as action movies go. Definitely one of my favorites. Also, make sure you're still subscribed. There's a funky thing going on with the algorithm. Just take 2 seconds. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel or subscribe if you're new as well. Now, let's talk about Dark Fate. So, if you didn't know, it was originally planned to be a trilogy. They went in headstrong, thinking this movie is going to be a massive success. We're attaching James Cameron back to the Terminator franchise. Now that we've got James Cameron attached, it's going to be a huge movie. Everyone's going to rush out to see it and love it no matter what we do. Even if we decide to say, hey, your old movie is wrong, and we are going to replace John Connor with a 90-pound girl who's going to be the future leader of the resistance. Hey, remember John Connor, those movies you love, though? Well, they're in the garbage now. So, turned out fans didn't quite appreciate that. Also, some things coming out about this movie about trouble on set, arguments between James Cameron and Tim Miller. After watching this movie, I'm so glad that guy was not attached to Deadpool 2. Mary Sue did an article talking about the movie we would have had if Tim Miller had stayed on it. So that should tell you something. I don't know what happened to this guy, but he is probably going to be about done in Hollywood after this flop. Usually, if you flop a movie with a humongous budget like this, you usually have a hard time finding work like this again. Now, I don't think a lot of people even knew there were problems on the set. An article in here that linked to the other one, James Cameron reveals he clashed with Terminator Dark Fate director. Now, I think that's pretty telling. It says usually when stuff like this happens, there's always problems because James Cameron has a big ego. And Tim Miller pretty much wanted to do things his way. That's what I got out of that little article there. And James Cameron just wasn't very happy with that. He does see himself as the father of the Terminator franchise, which he is. And it sounds like Tim Miller really didn't care. However, I don't want to take any heat off James Cameron because James Cameron is totally at fault here. I have no doubt that the outline for everything that happened came from him. The whole let's take John Connor out. Let's make motherhood bad. Let's go ahead and replace John with this 90-pound, 5'1" woman. What a complete joke that is. Ha ha! Take that, men. You stupid men. You got your hero gone. It totally wipes away the first 2 movies. It really does. And it disrespects them, in my opinion. I'm glad this movie's bombed because at least we'll never have another garbage Terminator sequel. I think the sequels are done and not coming. You don't have a bomb like this. So this is the second Terminator bomb. Because remember, Genesis was supposed to be a trilogy as well. Even had a cliffhanger at the end of it. You're never going to see what happens with that movie, just like you're never going to see what happens with this movie, because this movie's on track to have the same kind of record that movie had. And when you have the kind of budget these movies have, it's not justifiable to make sequels. So let's take a look at some of the stuff they have to say here. Terminator Dark Fate is in theaters now, and the film is poised to win this week at the box office. There's just one small problem, though. Even that success might not be enough to jumpstart another 2 movies like James Cameron probably envisioned after his re-entry to the franchise. The Hollywood Reporter made note of the film's box office predicament in a recent report surrounding the film. The piece details that Dark Fate may have represented a last chance effort at getting those 2 new installments off the ground. Possible sequels could be explored on Netflix after the events of the film. Paramount already has a deal in place with the streaming service, so that would be a very comfortable transition. Fans will have to wait to see how it shakes out. Now, I'm not buying that. You would still need to spend a lot of money. Terminator films, in my opinion, probably aren't cheap to make. Now, the first one, yeah, that one was made cheaply for the time. It still looked pretty good. But these movies now, they have to look really good, really high quality. I don't think you can make this film with a cheap budget. This movie not doing well is pretty much going to mark the end of the Terminator franchise. Now, I think you could see a total reboot happen. This was a soft reboot, and they're going to point that out in a minute. But I think the only other thing that might happen is they'll do a total reboot. Sarah Connor, John Connor, Skynet, stuff like that. Or they'll just reboot the idea. I mean, it's not hard to do an AI-focused dystopian future, following robots going back in time. Those are things that could happen, and I would say you're more likely to just see cleaning of the table at this point because there's such a mess now. So many different timelines. It just doesn't make any sense now. So this sort of talk is very frustrating for James Cameron, who was brought on specifically to breathe some life into the series. He and Tim Miller delivered a legacy franchise sequel in the same vein of Star Wars The Force Awakens or the last Halloween movie. Now, The Force Awakens, that movie was pretty much just a copy and paste of A New Hope. This movie, I hear, is also kind of a copy and paste of several things in the originals. The problem is you disrespected the fans right off the bat. At least they didn't kill Han Solo until the end of the movie in Force Awakens. You guys took him out right at the beginning of the new movie when he was still a kid. So, I mean, it doesn't really does it even get any more disrespectful? But even still, things were not always easy going on the set of Dark Fate. Miller was adamant that he wanted to deliver his vision of the film. Cameron was on set as an advisor for script purposes, but that doesn't mean that all of his edits made their way into the final cut. The veteran filmmaker talked about some of those disagreements in an interview with Collider recently. If anyone was expecting Terminator 2 again, they're going to be a little disappointed when they got into their seats. So the rest of the article doesn't really go into much, but I wanted to expand on what they were talking about here because the sequel's not going to happen. And I'm kind of glad. Does anybody really want any more Justin Bieber Terminator and the Hobbit hero, the Hobbit hero woman? No one wants to watch these movies. I think it's being shown. No one's going out to see this. One of the biggest problems that this movie had was that the spoilers were confirmed. They launched this movie in other countries before they brought it to the biggest markets, and people had all of those spoilers confirmed, and it just was a turnoff. And I think, the franchise is done. I don't think there's coming back from this. I think this will be the last Terminator movie, at least for a long, long time. And if you see anything else, it's going to be a complete, total reboot of the series. Anyway, I could be wrong. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts. Leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. Do you think the franchise is done completely? I'd love to hear from you. Also, throw a like up, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.